Hi again, it's John here from Sci-Fi Scavengers book channel. I thought I'd try to do a review, make a change from all the flipping book haul videos I've been doing recently. I don't know if it's a review as such. I don't possess the literary criticism skills to do that justice. So I'm just going to pull out some aspects of the book, and I'm going to try to keep that structure for any that I might do in the future. So we're going to cover some basic demographics and what's it called, who's it by, how many pages, when it was published, etc. And then I'll talk a little bit about the basic premise of the book, who my favourite character was, my favourite spaceship, if there is a spaceship, because you always have a favourite. What high concepts are there, so if there's anything that particularly appealed to me or that I was noticeable in terms of highfalutin sci-fi stuff. Did it remind me of something? Sometimes books, you have a strong feeling like that. Either that you've read it before, or that it so strongly reminds you of something, or it just some theme or other rings a bell. What else is on my list here? Is there any mind fuckery? So did the author play a sort of massive trick on you or surprise you with something? So did I read something and think, hold on a minute, that doesn't make any sense at all, and have to go back and read the previous 3 chapters to try to figure it out. So that's the mindfuckery category. What was my favourite scene? Did I enjoy it overall? Would I read it again? Would I recommend it? And then if I can decide, then what's an overall score out of 10? And we'll see how that goes. All right, so the book that we're going to cover today is Babel 17 by Samuel R Delaney, which I read a couple of weeks back. It's quite a thin book, as they often were in this era. 150 pages, just a bit over. Something you can bash out in a determined single sitting if you felt so inclined. It was published in 1967, so it's been around for a while. It's not part of a series; it's a freestanding book, so there's no commitment to wade into a series of 10 or 15 of the damn things. So it's a one and done. So the basic premise of the book, and I suppose I should say I don't know if I'd say there's spoilers exactly, but there's maybe light spoilers, some information about the book, which is more than is on the blurb in the back. So Babel 17 is the name for a code or the language, secret language spoken or used by the enemy in an intergalactic war with the invaders. So not much is said about them, really. They're just referred to as the enemy or the invaders in the book. But Babel 17 is the code that they use. And Rydra Wong is a poet that has the language, a famous poet. So she's the sort of poet rock star of the Galactic Empire, and she has the the authorities feel the language aptitude to be of use to the military in their plan to decode Babel 17 and make use of it. So she's sent on a mission to try to do that and to weaponize Babel 17 so that it can be used against the enemy. And she's also drop dead gorgeous, obviously. That's made clear in the description. So my favourite character probably is Rydra Wong, actually. It's given that the book's written in 1967 or before, it's unusual, I think, to have a female protagonist in a book of that age, so that makes it stand out. She kicks ass, as I'll say later on. She's instrumental in a couple of military victories in the book, and she's also drop dead gorgeous, so that helps. My favourite spaceship, there are a few in the book, not much between them really, but I suppose where quite a lot of the action happens is the Jebel Tarek, which is Tarek's mountain. Tarek is a character that she comes across maybe a third or halfway through the book, because their ship that she was on gets fucked up in a battle or with some scavengers or someone that destroys their ship, and they're rescued by Tarek and his crew. Filth level, the level of smut in the book is low. There is a bit of shagging, but no gory details. But interestingly, I think it was a bit ahead of its time. The book features and it implies that it's pretty common among particular type of spaceship crew members is that it has what are obviously bisexual polyamorous relationships, in particular triples, and that's explored in the relationships are explored in some detail. Again, no details. And also, amusingly, there was a nightclub in the early stages of the book when she was trying to assemble a crew for her spaceship. A nightclub or a restaurant or something where the dress code was you had to be buck naked, and that caused a bit of discomfort for the people that she was with. High concepts. Well, it ought to be intergalactic travel, because that is what they do. They're travelling not just a fucking long way between the stars, but a really fucking long way between galaxies, and how they do that is completely glossed over in all but the most kind of cursory fashion. So it's pretty laughable. Really, there's no attempt to explain or extemporize on the theory behind that. It doesn't happen. It's referred to in passing, and they are somehow able to go from A to B when A to B is bajillions of light years away. Maybe Delaney didn't know that galaxies are really far apart, but I doubt it. So really what he's just saying is, fuck it, don't worry about it. They just can. And to a modern, particularly to a physicist like me, that's a little bit of a cop-out. But it wasn't essential for the plot, honestly. There's also the concept of language. So as the book goes on, Rydra can, as she develops her skill, as she begins to understand the code and the language more and more during the story, she's able to use it almost like a sonar or an X-ray or a flippin' Star Trek tricorder or something. She's able to just by thinking in the language, forcing herself to think in the language, she's able to see more. She can read people's intentions. She can understand their motivations, and that comes in handy a little bit later on, as I'll mention. So that was quite cool. The other thing, it was, I don't know if I would call this as a highfalutin sci-fi concept as such, but it was intriguing. Pretty early on in the book, when she's putting her crew together, she needs a navigator, and the reason that they've gone to the buck naked dress code restaurant is because they do wrestling in this restaurant in a spherical 0G wrestling ring, and the wrestling is also done buck naked. And apparently the reason she wants to go there is that the accepted way to judge the skills of a navigator is to see how well they do in naked 0G wrestling. I don't quite know why, I don't quite follow what the logic of that was, but it's something to do with spatial awareness, and that translating into their ability to, because the navigator kind of almost wears the ship like an item of equipment or whatever. They're kind of plugged in somehow, and that awareness and ability to fight and the agility and so on translates into their ability to control the ship, apparently. So I just found that funny that you can have buck naked 0G wrestling as a way to as a job interview, effectively. What did it remind me of? It reminded me of Arrival, the movie Arrival, and I guess the short story by Ted Chiang as a result, just because of the use of language as more than a communication device. It was almost like a tool that allowed her to do cool stuff. So that, and I wondered if that book, Babel 17, was some way an inspiration for Ted Chiang. Who knows? Mind fuckery. So any what the fuck moments? No, not really. No clever plot tricks or wild rides that had me scratching my head. So very low mind fuckery quotient in this book. My favourite scene. So Rydra Wong, our heroine protagonist, she wins a space battle for Tarek, the skipper of Jebel Tarek that rescued her, kind of greatly impressing him in the process, and also impressing, as it turns out, what becomes her love interest, quite surprising love interest later in the book. But anyway, by using Babel 17 to figure out what the enemy ship's captain was going to do, and thus setting a trap, and she kind of intercedes in this battle when it's not going well, and saves the day, all through the use of Babel 17. So did I enjoy it overall? Yeah, it was okay. You know, and it's only 150 pages, so it's not like you're slogging out a 900-page squirrel killer that can become a bit of a chore if it's not, you know, tip-top entertainment. But yeah, it was okay. Will I read it again? No, probably not. It's enough to check the box, I think. Would I recommend it? Yeah, sure. It's a quick read. It's a good story. The character, if you think of Samuel Delaney kind of in the mid-60s trying to imagine what the far future would be like, it's funny that some of those things kind of happen now. I don't know about the zero-G butt-naked wrestling, but the polyamorous relationships and so on. But so yeah, it's worth reading. And score out of 10, I think I would probably give it. I don't want to go too high, as this is my first one, so I'm going to have to go with a 6, I think, which maybe isn't quite doing it justice, but we'll go with a 6.5, if we're feeling generous. So, as a reminder, that was Babel 17. Let me know in the comments if what you thought, if you read it, what you thought of it, and what you thought of the review. And if you haven't already done so, then you can subscribe and catch up with more of these in the future. Okay, I will leave it there, and we'll catch up with you next time. Bye bye.